Well, high school football might be a little different, but it just
Yeah.
ramps and it gets more and more,
Yes, correct.
more and more intense. I actually had a friend a long time who played for the Raiders, and he told me, he said, in high school I was the best kid on the field. In college, I just ran over people. When you get to the NFL, though, you can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Everybody has always been the best person on the
Yep.
field, and now you finally found your people, and it takes a whole different level of skill and all that kind of stuff. How does that? So that world is designed for this mindset, right,
Yep.
that you carry, right? But when you come out of that, it's got to feel something like going from this almost like coming out of the military into civilian land or something like that. I don't know if that's the right metaphor.
No,
but
that's
the
fair.
rest of us don't quite live that way.
Yeah.
We pretend to, we try to, we do our best, right? What was that transition like as you entered this construction field and this new world of project management and getting married and having kids, and like, what's it like with the civilians?
I actually think I want to say about for 4 or 5 years, I really tried to subdue that mentality. I call it the lion mentality. I really tried to subdue it. And it got to this breaking point. I met my wife at I met my wife as we were working on an ambulance together. And the reason I liked that job is because all I had to do was show up. All I had to do was button seat, and I got paid. But what happened is, in the progression of trying to subdue who I was like, dude, this isn't me. Like, I can't just show up. Showing up's not enough for me. For some people, it's good. I'm not knocking it. Some people, just showing up to work is great. It wasn't for me. I remember sitting in the ambulance going, this is not it. Like, I need something that pushes me, that that makes my creative spirit like be hungry. And I think at the moment when I decided to get out is actually an internal thing where I looked at myself and I realized that I had been on teams my whole life and I was a team player. And if I continued to hang out with hyenas, that I was going to become a hyena. And it was literally the breaking point for me. I'm like, I got to get out of here, because I'm amongst hyenas who are just okay with leeching off of the success of, that's what I felt. Whether that was happening or not, that's what I felt. That was just okay with leeching off of the stuff that was happening, the environment. And I'm like, this is just not me. Like, I'm a lion. Like, but I learned that about myself, that if I put myself in an environment where everyone else is doing something, that I will slowly become that thing in which I don't want to be, or that's not who I am.
Right.
And so I immediately, I literally quit. I moved myself out of that and started like literally saying, you know what? It's okay to be a lion. It's okay to just be who I am. And if people don't like it, then they can kick rocks. But I'm going to be who James is.
So who is James without football?
James without football is just a winner. I think that's the that's the answer that I thought of immediately when you said that. But when I think about who James is outside of football, I think of a story or an idea. Maybe not a story, but not many people know this about me. But I used to rush home from football games Saturday night after college football games to go watch Trading Spaces. So who James is outside of football is someone who wants to build, someone who wants to create, someone who wants to design, develop. That's who I am. That's why I went from computer science to
Into
architecture, because I wanted to build beautiful stuff.
So why did that need to be caged or stifled or put down when you come out of football into the the civilian world, right? Your first attempt to try to figure out what to do with this was to shove it down, get it, quiet it. Nobody wants this.
Yep.
Right? Why does being a winner need to be silenced?
Well, and I think it's because that mentality, if spoken or if exuded the wrong way, really could get people to like
why?
Like stand off.
We don't like winners?
No. Here's a great example.
Okay.
I was playing board games with some of our church friends, and just it just came out of my mouth naturally. And then we were picking teams, and I said, "Oh, you guys should come over here so you guys can be on the winning team. And it actually offended everybody.
Yeah.
But to me, I was like, what? We're going to win.
Right.
That's right.
And then the pastor was like, oh, he spoke up and said, hey, it's okay. That's just James. That's just how his brain works, but he doesn't mean to offend you guys. Mm-hmm. But I could feel this like we're playing a board game. And I'm like, you guys are playing a board game. I'm trying to win. And it was like, it could have been chutes and ladders. Yeah. I mean, it didn't matter to me, but I literally was like, oh, you guys should come over here so you guys can be on the winning team. And it literally offended everybody.
Right.
And so I had these moments in my life where I could tell that mentality doesn't sit well with people. But in transitioning out of that and being like, you know what, I'm just going to be the dog. I'm just going to be the lion that I am. I realized that like, if those people got offended by it, they're not the people that are going to be on my side. Mm-hmm. The people that are going to be on my side will be like, let's go. Mm-hmm. Let's win. I'm going to be on James' team because we are going to win. Mm-hmm. And I just realized that is...
Well, they're actually saying James is going to be on my team because I'm going to win.
Or vice versa. Exactly.
Right,
exactly. That is exactly... Those are the people when we talk about being lions and hyenas is like, I only hire lions. Mm-hmm. And I really do try to surround myself with lions. There's nothing wrong with hyenas. They're part of the ecosystem. We need them to survive. We need it. But that mentality of like making sure that I'm around lions, that the only people that I hire is lions. When I hire somebody, if they don't say that they want to take my spot in the next 5 to 10 years, there's a good chance that I'm not going to hire them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I want that dog in you. Like I want you to look at me and go, I want your spot. Because if you take my spot, that means I have less work to do. Mm-hmm. Which means I could go into another.
You get to elevate.
Yes, and then
which is the game you're playing anyway.
If I get 5 or 6 people,
you're leaving that spot anyway.
If I get 5 or 6 people, who want my spot, we are winning as an organization.
That's right.
The first thing I told the owner of our company is, just so you know, I'm coming after your spot. And he laughed at me. I said, don't laugh. I'm coming. And I was 27. I had never even looked at I knew nothing about project management or construction. And he said, oh, what's your plan in 5 years? I said, probably not in 5 years, but my ultimate goal is I'm taking your spot. And he just laughed.
Yeah. One of the things that that you're playing with here that I find is a repeating pattern in our development as people is we get into these environments when we're young where this thing comes out in us, right? And everybody's got a version of not everybody. Many people have a thing. Everybody has a thing. Some people don't know it, but they have this thing that is it's their voice. It's their way that they do the world, right? And it's common to hear them say, I thought everybody thought like that. Yeah. Are you kidding me? That's not unusual. That's not your normal. It's that sort of thing, right? But when we're young, it has a tendency to get displayed in ways that are immature because we're immature, right? And so it actually can do some damage. It can hurt people. It can cause moments that are like, oh, I'm not super proud of how that happened or how that went. And so one of our early stage tools to deal with that is to stifle it. Yeah. Because it's actually the thing we have our hands wrapped around. Correct. It is the only thing we've got, so to speak. So we have to take it and kind of go, okay, I'll put that away. And we often get feedback where people say, stop doing that. Yeah. That hurts. Right.
Is it social norms? Are we learning social norms?
To a large degree. I think what we're being told, I think the language that is used in those moments is often unhelpful. Stop doing that. Yeah. What would be much better is say, stop doing that in this kind of situation. Yep. But in this
context,
yeah, that didn't work here, but over there it's fantastic. Yep. Right, that sort of thing. And it takes us some time to figure out how to be willing to risk to bring this thing back out. Yep. And go, actually, no, this is what I do. Yeah. And there's a difference between this is the only thing I do. Correct. And I know when to do this. And maybe a board game isn't the right time. Right?
It's not.
Right?
No, it's not.
But for that lesson to be, I should never do this again? Yeah. Well, that's too much, right?
But wouldn't you also agree for a moment that everyone has a lion in them? right? Like thinking about like there's
depends on what we mean by lion.
Yeah. But there's this thing in us to be wild. And to pioneer and to go after a thing that we would need to be courageous for. But for whatever reason, some of us suppress that and we tame it down so controlled that it never is expressed in the way that maybe it's intended. And as a result, we know that people lose their way, they resent, they harbor bitterness. But in a sense, though, if we think about the design in people and how we are intrinsically motivated, couldn't we almost say that tapping into that intrinsic thing is a bit wild and liony? Like I remember reading a book, I can't remember the name of the book, but this guy has a moment where he's visiting like the zoo in New York or somewhere, and he's fascinated by the silverback gorillas. And then it dawns on him that these silverback gorillas are all docile and tamed, contained in a cage. And so the experience is fascinating because here is this potential force of nature being completely suppressed that if in the wild would take on a whole different form, but they've actually grown accustomed to a way of living that is so not natural. So I'm getting at this thing like, yes, there's a lion and you're a lion, but is part of that you saying, I'm not going to settle for what I know isn't what my potential is or what my passion is, and I'm going to choose to jump in and author, create. And is that the wild we're talking about, or is there something different in the lion? You know what I mean?
There's definitely something different.
Is there?
I love your mindset or how you're thinking of it, because I actually think you're right. I think everyone has that thing that they want to do, and if everything was perfect, and if everything was easy, they would go after it. I think that what I'm talking about is a lion is a straight mentality. It's a mentality that regardless of what happens, you will eat.